All right, we're live. Blessings to everyone tonight. We're so excited to have our conversation about sports and Black Adventism in the 21st century. I have one of my best friends, Dr. Ty Douglas, with me to kind of talk about this issue. It actually kind of sparked the conversation earlier today when we were seeing some conversation about what's going on at Oakwood Academy and them having the opportunity, their students having the opportunities to compete and possibly at the statewide level and some of the challenges with that. So I sent a message over to my resident expert on sports and the academy, Dr. Douglas, and thought we would just kind of jump on a live so we can really kind of discuss this and kind of tease out some of these issues. And he has some really interesting perspectives related to this issue. So what's going on, Brother Ty?
What's going on, Dr. Freeman Jr.? Shout out to you, man.
We're good.
Good to be able to hang out with you for a quick second. Hello to the people out there. We just want to just let you on the inside of just how we chop it up, man. I was on the BART. I'm in the Bay Area these days. I was on the BART to work, and Dr. Freeman sent me a couple of messages about some things that were happening. And frankly, I'm actually not that familiar with like the nuance or particulars of the situation at Oakwood Academy. Though I definitely want to give a shout out to the young people that I hear holding it down on the court, but haven't been given access to participate, I believe, in the next level of the playoff game. And definitely want to just make sure that they know that we're praying for them and sending encouragement to them if they get a chance to watch this. But yeah, man, it's just an interesting time. See it. Yeah, I just excited to be able to just dialogue with you, man. You're getting your Tavis Smiley on. You know what I mean? And we can chop it up. But we definitely invite, others who want to be a part of the conversation, definitely hit us up in the comments. We'll also welcome the opportunity to send you the link if you want to be a part of it. We've got some folks who may jump in as well. So yeah, definitely, man. So yeah, see it, excited, man, just to talk about it. And I just think it's a critical time that we begin to dialogue about like the nuances of faith and its intersections with like culture, identity, and in particular Blackness, right? And just where we are in these times. So yeah, happy to just share, man, and bounce some ideas off of you, and just welcome other thoughts. We're not claiming to have all the answers. We just wanted to share some of our thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, so one of the things that we were originally talking about was about like even our own experience with athletics at I went to Pine Forge. I went to pre-K through Oakwood Adventist Christian education, and I have a particular perspective on kind of competitive sports within our system. I know Ty has a particular perspective based on his trajectory, but essentially where we started was that just the challenge with my dad, I reflected on it, and my dad would have me go to basketball camps in the summer and things like that. But by middle school, it was like, I'm never going to go to the NBA because, I would have to play on the Sabbath, right? And so whether you perceive me to be as, a baller like that, I still had some hoop dreams even at that time. And so there was already a constraint around playing ball at a professional level, even my imagination to be able to even do that. So I was just like, well, let me spend my time doing something else. I don't know what your thoughts are, maybe related to your trajectory.
Yeah. Well, first of all, shout out, and I just want to acknowledge your dad, man. You're just Sydney Freeman Jr., but as you shared this afternoon, Sydney Freeman Sr., they say, was a hooper in New Jersey, right? And I'm known for
Connecticut.
There we go. And then, but he was known as a singer in New Jersey, but a hooper in Connecticut. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. All right, that's it.
We definitely want to give you your flowers and just say his name tonight and acknowledge him. For me, man, I was born and raised in Bermuda, pink sand, blue water. And so when I think about just like the landscape, I wouldn't even go specifically just to sport yet. Like I was raised in a context, and it's a larger story, but long story short, like I was raised around the church, and I would even say somewhat in the church, but never really forced. Like my mom, was disfellowshipped, and when she got pregnant with me, and so like I didn't have to really participate, but I always sort of chose to be around. Went to church with my grandmother. My dad, who raised me, was an Adventist, so I always had this really sort of outside in perspective, and still do, even now working in collegiate athletics. And so it's interesting because, like, we were told in Bermuda, like, you couldn't go swimming on Sabbath, right? So you can go for a Sabbath walk, but not a Sabbath swim, right? Like those nuances, even just as relates to like recreation and those tensions, I think are things that we need to be thinking about, and people are. And I think, just that framework of like, even where that came from, I think we can probably include that in our conversation at some point too. And specifically sport, I believe pretty gifted in athletics, as well as, I was academic. I didn't go to an Adventist school, elementary school nor high school. And so I played, sports, pretty competitively, very competitively. In fact, see it in Bermuda, for those who, anyone knows anything about Bermuda, cup matches like our World Series, like our Super Bowl, which is a big cricket match. And at a point in my journey, I was actually one of the best cricketers in my age group. I like, at the summer camps and the leagues and stuff, I was really good. Right. And I had a goal seed of playing in cup match, and to play cup match though, you have to play in the trial, right? So you have to play either on the trials that are usually on Saturdays. And here's my thought. This is why I'm so excited about this conversation, because God's been just, working, like talking to me about him through sport recently, is even as a young boy, as a visionary, as someone who I felt like I could do anything with God's help, I wanted to be so good, see it in cricket, that I would like lead the leagues in my rankings and in my averages and whatever, so that they would change the rules and allow me to play cup match without having to play on Sabbath. Like that was my mindset. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm honest with you, I actually was really frustrated with God when like my soccer career and my cricket career didn't go the way I wanted. I'm happy to talk about that another time too. But just in short, I've always sort of wrestled with God in the sports space. And even now as a dad, who's, raising two sons and supporting them in their soccer journeys and the like, it's a tension that I felt, not just for me in my own journey in sport, but also as a parent. And then obviously now, I actually work in sport as an associate athletic director for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and we just added justice. So, but I'm not speaking on behalf of my university tonight. Let's just put that out there. I'm talking on my own behalf tonight. I'm not speaking on behalf of the university that I work for.
Yeah. So what are some of those? What are some questions that you think that we need to really be thinking about? So, for instance, given a little bit about what we know with regards to kind of the Sabbath hours, for instance, that's kind of a core thing, right? So, sunset to sunset are the hours in which we set aside for non-play. Could you talk about maybe your perspective with regards to engaging in any competitive activities during those sacred hours?
Yeah. I mean, for me in my journey, I try not to, when I was a kid, I probably participated in like a track meet once or twice on the South. I got injured, so I feel like that was like the Lord cursing me or something on that meet. So I didn't do so well on those meets. Yeah. I think, I think for me, an important takeaway for this conversation is that I'm not sure that we've taken the time to really study this topic, like outside of what was given to us from others. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about like from just like from our elders. I'm thinking about also just the theological sort of underpinnings and approaches that were deficit based at times, and particularly ones that are anti-Black, right? That are grounded in whiteness and white supremacy. And I've really been thinking about what does it look like to really study these issues for ourselves through an anti-deficit lens, and to ask God what does worship look like through sport? Like, what does it look like to use our God-given gifts for him in sport as a legitimate ministry space, as a legitimate, I'll go further, expression of worship, right? Like the same way that we celebrate, the riff and run of a singer. Like I in the space that I'm in, like that's what folk feel when someone, gives them the wiggle and leaves them behind. Like just to see the body and like there are people who, as they are legit Christians, but they were raised in a context where they see their athletic gift as an expression of worship. And the reason why I'm particularly challenged by how I think historically we've thought about sport and Christianity, and in particular our faith tradition, is that I think our approaches have been most detrimental to Black youth, in particular, because of the images that were out there as relates to accidents in sport. Primarily, or a lot of times, that's where our young people saw like Black accidents, an example of it in sport. And so you had dads and parents who would sit up and watch Magic and Kareem on Saturday night or Sunday, but I'm not sure we ever took the time to study what does it look like, to utilize sport as a legitimate platform for Adventist kids. And like we never created systems and structures to develop the excellence that's in our kids as well, so they can have alternative pathways to be able to maybe get to the league. Like I just feel like we saw it as a shameful space. And so in turn, there are people who I believe who are out there who have felt like perhaps God gave them a gift that almost like they can't really fully use. And so I just want to start by saying this, like when I made my statement, see it about like a 21st century, Black Seventh-day Adventist theology of sport. Like for me, that's grounded in an apology. Like, I just want like for every person who's watching this, and I know folks who like either went to the league or didn't, or just felt like they couldn't, or just couldn't even pursue their gifts. You know what I mean? We celebrate DP and the Aeolians, but in our spaces, when you go to these games, like, the Aeolians is equivalent to the football team, you know what I'm saying? These spaces, like, but we celebrated music or we celebrate preaching, but we never create a space to celebrate those who were gifted athletically. And we have of the institutions that maybe did that to you, not that I worked in them or a part of them from a leadership perspective like that, but I think we need to begin to say sorry. Like I'm sorry that you had that experience. I'm sorry that we failed to imagine how God want to use us and be glorified and worshiped through the gifts that He's given us in sport.
Definitely. I'm trying to make this. I'm in the midst of trying to make this this public. One second. Oh, it looks like Linda's gonna help me out here. But yeah, I thought that was really profound that you said that it would be grounded in an apology, right? It would start with apology, and it really struck home with me because of how I started, right? So I said that it was all these constraints that were there, that were placed there. So as a parent now, what is your perspective? What would you say to some of these parents that are trying to make a decision right now about having their child engaged in sports right now? Adventist, they may not have access to a Adventist school like Tacoma Academy, Pine Forge, Oakwood Academy. What would you say to parents that have a child that's athletically gifted, that wants to play? Yeah,
I think that we have to be stewards, and we need to study our kids and be intentional about ensuring that we are placing them in environments that allow them to be who Christ is, who God has created them to be. So I think as a parent who had, I can't tell you how many soccer tournaments and things that my wife and I have driven to and paid for, and sometimes for us, that meant paying for tournaments where the tournaments were Saturday, Sunday. You're paying for 4 games, but you're only playing in 2. I think there are a couple of levels to this. So one, I would say to parents, I think it's important for us to nurture the gifts of our children, right? We don't worship sport, just like we shouldn't worship any other discipline. But I do think that it is a mechanism through which worship can be and a relationship with God can be nurtured. lessons can be learned about just discipline and teamwork and how to treat people good, better, and different. I think it's a beautiful space to minister. But I really want to challenge us as parents to reimagine what it would look like to create our own systems. You know what I'm saying? Like I think we need to create our own systems. I use this language in my research, Dr. Freeman, systems of healing. Like I think we need to create systems where we're not relying on other systems that don't understand our value system to be able to include us all the time. Like you're in this life as well, right? It's like we need to begin to build our own stuff, right? Like what would it look like, for us to systematically and systemically look at how we create pipelines of excellence, and in particular Black excellence for Seventh-day Adventist young people in sport? What would that look like? What does it look like to have our own AAU team? What does it look like AAU teams or our own AAU leagues, and having facilities that are excellent so folks are coming to us? So we're not having to just be in their tournament or we're not even having to listen, you don't even need these leagues. If you watch King Richard, see it, you had one Black man and his wife and his family who created their own systems. They had a blueprint. And that man took two women who had not folks who we didn't really mess with tennis like that, right? And he nurtured them. And then when they entered the space with other kids, they won another level. So I'm saying, I think individually we need to be making sure that we are being good stewards, and then collectively, what does it look like for us to create systems that heal and nurture our kids? And I don't think we can rely on some of the larger structures to do that. Some of those larger structures, they weren't really meaning to say Black Lives Matter. So they're not going to be really understanding of the need to create systems that will allow our kids to thrive. And that's the other part of it. Let's be clear. Like when I was in Bermuda, probably wearing some long pants on a summer day and feeling ultra hot and wanted to go swimming, but, feeling like I couldn't because that's what, the rest of the folks were saying in the church space. These folks were throwing frisbees and going rowing and canoeing and, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, so even just like the norms that we've inherited, there's been a lot of pain that has happened, and it's been based on what somebody told us God thinks. And I want this conversation, I want, us to begin to shift that to saying, God, like, what is it that you're saying? Like studying it for ourselves and reconsidering our theological and epistemological frameworks, our ways of knowing that would suggest that like somebody else has to always tell us how God wants to minister or how God wants to, reveal himself in us and through us. And I think that's something that's been missing historically.
Wow. You said a lot there. I'm thinking about in a practical way. What can Oakwood do? What can Pine Forest do? What can our elementary schools do? Because I think what you're hitting on is both athletic, but it also goes to, our area of expertise in the area of education, right? There's kind of this notion of excellence within our schools more broadly, right? And then now we're speaking more specifically to education with education in our facilities related to sports. Could you maybe unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think, again, I think one of the reasons why this conversation is so important, see it, is because it's very difficult to imagine in an oppressive construct, right? So I'm not just talking about like systems like out there. I'm talking about like what it's done to us. I guess it goes back to your, decolonizing the Black Adventist mind, right? Like there's just some stuff that we don't even think about. See it? You know what I'm saying? It almost feels sacrilegious and irreverent to imagine those things. But I think when we begin to realize that like God doesn't hate us, or he's not mad at us. He doesn't dislike our athleticism. He didn't give us the gift so it could just be for a sports day, like what we used to have in Bermuda, where you race against other kids at your school. But then back then, like you couldn't race against kids at other schools, or what I'm saying, like it's just I think we have to acknowledge that there's been great compromise. You know what I'm saying? We had competition in a lot of stuff. We've been into quiz competitions and all types of academic competitions, right? You got folks who will slam down some dominoes on Saturday night. They're competing. You know what I'm saying? And yet when it came to the sports space, that it was like, okay. And so for some of us, we've been raised in homes and cultures and communities and countries and churches and contexts that have hindered our capacity to imagine, to create, right? To say, God, what does it look like? So I would say, I think, our schools, our institutions, you imagine our alma mater needs to imagine what does it look like to really minister through sport. Like, see it. If I'm honest with you, see it. Listen to me. When I go to our stadium, I went to seminary, see it, and I wasn't thinking I was going to be like a chaplain in the athletic space. I mean, it was a thought that was possible, but that wasn't initially why I did it. But as God has just been leading my life, it's like that chaplaincy space in the sports space. Yeah, it's 65,000 people. See it, worshiping, bro.
Yeah,
they're worshiping. Yeah. They're lifting hands. See it. They're praising. You know what I'm saying? The pastor's the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? The praise team is the band. Like folks worship. See, I remember being in England one year, and I went to church. But if I'm honest with you, see, I was struggling because I'm a big soccer fan, and there was more excitement as relates to people who were going, getting on the tube to go to the local soccer game than it was in the dry church they were going into. So I think we have to acknowledge that there's been a gap. And I will say this explicitly. I'm not quite sure, Dr. Freeman, that we are any better for generationally, the past generations, having not engaged in the athletic space. In other words, there was this narrative that suggested, well, if we just don't go, if we're not there, then the world will notice that we're not there. Jesus is coming, and so we should just not participate because let's just enjoy it. You know what I mean? But there are generations of athletes who know nothing about Christ, some of them, and certainly nothing about some of the teachings that we have that we believe are so important and peculiar because we're not in proximity to them. So I think we need to get in proximity to people. I won't say the person's name or even their research study, but there's a brother, a colleague of ours, dynamics, pastor who's working on his doctorate. I can't wait for him to dig into his research, but he's got a fire. I don't want to say too much because somebody might see the dissertation topic, but I just think, I don't want to say anymore. I don't even want to say. I'm just saying. I believe we looked at Scripture through an anti-deficit lens, through a lens that would suggest that maybe God is interested in our athleticism and that He actually did give that to us as a gift, as a mechanism, as a means of worship. That we may find some new jams that may free us to imagine then what does that look like institutionally. Here's the sad part. I think too many of our institutions are only interested in reaching out to some of the big names and folks in sport and other things after they've made it to the league, but we never really talk about the process. And the process has been that many of these people, frankly, didn't even go about it the way that we think that they should. And they probably felt shame and guilt and felt like they had to leave the church because we never created a pathway for them to be able to utilize their athletic gifts. But then we would have knocked on the door and say, now make a donation. Now that we have philanthropic interests. And a lot of times we're not really interested in them when they went through their struggles. We went to paycheck now to the big time, but we weren't with them. You know what I'm saying? When the world was looking at them sort of sideways, we were looking at them sideways too. So are we really even interested in ministering to people, or do we want to check? You know what I'm saying? So as relates to institutions, we have to authentically love people and be willing to allow the Holy Spirit in this season. Look, I'm gonna keep 100 here. I believe that something shifted, bro. 1619 to 2019, 400 years. You read your word, 400 years. Like then 2020 came. Like I believe that there's been a shift and there's a need for us to really say, Daddy, like what does it look like to finish this work? And I don't think we should be just relying on what somebody told us historically about what ministry looks like, because I'm not sure that we've been better for being absent in a space like sport that is a worship space. Even if those people are worshiping, maybe not our God, but they're worshiping the athletes. It's a space that if we are not connected to, it's very difficult to reach those people in meaningful ways.
So wait. So are you telling, am I understanding you to say, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you see athletics as a way to finish the work?
100%. 100%. See it. I'm probably I don't know any other Seventh-day Adventist Christian senior administrator in a Power 5 conference. There maybe someone else has been out there, but I actually feel like how God has been positioning me. And I'm not trying to like elevate my status or whatever, but I believe it's akin to Barry Black's sort of pathway or engagement in the military. Like even in that, like we celebrate people after the fact. But when he transitioned from, I think, traditional pastoral ministry to like military, where folks are probably, he tells a story, now they're celebrating it, right? But the reality is like we struggle to imagine what it looks like to engage in these other spaces. And for me, I just believe that God is honoring the visions and dreams of the boy who at 12, you know what I mean? The boy who at 12 was thinking, how can I, honor God and not play on Sabbath for cup match, you know what I'm saying? But still get in and change the system, right? So I think we have to be in proximity to change the system. People are asking questions too, Doc. I want to make sure I see some questions that are coming in.
We got some fire comments. So I'm going to go back to something that Brandon Rose said here. So SDA athletes are always going to want more, especially the elite ones. So there will always be a ceiling. What are your thoughts related to that?
I'm not sure what Brother Rose means by the always going to want more. What do you mean always going to want more? And what's the ceiling? I'm not sure. I'm fully following like what he means by the ceiling. I don't know what he would be referring to as relates to the ceiling. I mean, I think in anything you want to be asking. We talk about being the head and not the tail. I think I'm not sure what ceiling we'll be referring to. You know what I mean? Like I think before we even think about ceilings, I think we want to think about what is access, what is liberation, what does freedom to imagine what it could look like before we think about what could hinder us. You know what I mean? Like hinder us. Like let's just imagine for a quick second. What could it be like if we actually, didn't think that it was a space of shame? There was actually a legitimate ministry space. It was actually a space of worship. But I'll be interested. Maybe you can send a follow-up comment for clarification. I'd love to hear a bit more about what he's referring to.
Well, I'm jumping around because
there's
a few comments here, but what Wu said, did Daniel work on the Sabbath? Is there legitimate work that you can engage in that is non-church-based work that would be seen as?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, I'm trying to pull up a comment. I know a friend of mine, he sent, as these conversations were happening, there was somebody who actually shared a great comment on his page that I want to try to pull up. But I mean, I'll ask this question because, we have Adventists, let's say fire prep people or, folks who work in the hospital. So when we talk about as they say, like even which work is considered appropriate or not, I think that's another conversation as well. And who decided which ones were sort of helping professions, you know what I mean? And then there are nuances of even like what Daniel's day-to-day life looked like that, I'm thinking if he was, in fact, the chief of staff working in high places, then I'm not sure what it looked like for him to minister. Like, I guess for me, the other party is like for me, and again, I'm speaking for me, folks, just to be clear, I live a very integrated life. So I'm never far away from like any parts of my identity. I am always a teacher, right? I'm always, a minister. There's the pastoral piece. There's the inspiration, motivation, just love for people. And obviously my professional identity as a professor, as an administrator, whatever. And being able to sort of calibrate what pieces of that or how much I can sort of throttle aspects of that. So for me, like I don't really even see like my professional space as like a job like that, right? Like I see it as a pastoral assignment, right? So again, like I think sometimes the way that we think about, okay, did Daniel work on Sabbath? Like again, like we don't even like sometimes the Bible doesn't even give us those nuances, and then we wait for somebody else tells us, sort of like what that supposedly was, man. We don't even know sometimes, right? I mean, but I guess I want us to think about like what does it really look like to evangelize, right? You know what I mean? Like not just the pamphlets for a crusade, but like, post 2020, 21, like folks ain't even on that. Like you're going to have to really be finding the spaces where the people are. And that's where Christ was, right? So for me, being in a space, where I'm as a chaplain in those spaces and my engagement on those days, the things that I do may be different. Some days, on the Sabbath, my engagement is different perhaps than during the week because I know why I'm there. And so my engagement, like, and even like how I engage my rest or when I engage it, it's contextual. But I mean, let's keep it 100. See it? Like, as a pastor, right? We planted a church. I was pastoring for 7 years, and the busiest day of the week is oftentimes on Sabbath. So do pastors work on Sabbath, on Saturdays, right? And then they rest on Sunday and Monday, right? So, what I'm saying? I just think sometimes there's just been these sort of cookie cutter, sort of like, things that have been put in our brains, like that didn't allow us to really imagine, okay, Daddy, what does it look like to really evangelize live? And where are the spaces that we can meet people where they are and say, listen, in relationship, I want to bid you come.
So Brandon clarified his comment, and I posted it there.
Mm-hmm. I see it. They will always want more in terms of pursuing their athletic career if they're elite, but the Sabbath will always be an issue. So again, Brandon, much respect, brother. So in my work and our work of like research spaces, like there's a scholar by the name of Dr. Sean Harper. He talks about like anti-deficit frameworks, right? So for me, I would want to take an anti-deficit framework and reimagine your question or the framing of that statement. I don't think that the Sabbath always has to be, what was the word I think you used at the end? You took the comment down, but I think it was like always an issue. Like, what if we thought about the Sabbath as an opportunity? And what if we see it, like seriously, like what if we thought about nurturing our own LeBron? What if there's the next LeBron who's somewhere eating some fried chicken and some stripple somewhere? See it? Like, you know what I'm saying? His LeBron, he's vegan. You know what I'm saying? We are the Pathfinder strong. If we had our own LeBron, this and actually connects even to conversations about like our young people taking their talents to HBCUs. It's like, listen, the cameras and the lights and the resources will follow where the talent is. So,
we've had over the years, I won't call them LeBrons, but I mean people that were great. I mean,
yeah. So I don't think it's an issue for them to want more. I think we have to again, I would love to see, can Oakwood get to the Final Four? Can we raise up a generation where you know what I'm saying, where we're the pathway to even professional athletics is such that one doesn't have to compromise. You know what I mean? We've had Jewish brothers and sisters who have done it, right? So I think sometimes before we even imagine what could be, we sort of just imagine what are the limitations based on what we've experienced. And I believe what we've experienced, frankly, has been insufficient. There's new opportunity.
I think Saba provided a interesting framing. What are your thoughts related to her comment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would agree. The data suggests that the pathway to the professional leagues, the numbers are the percentages aren't on your side, right? I mean, so most people don't make it to the league. So I would agree, right? It is an opportunity to train our kids to care for their bodies, etc. Learn how to be coached, right? For sure, I would agree. And I also think it's an opportunity to be excellent, right? And not just necessarily on the field, but just like these are whole industries. These are like LeBron is a whole economy. You know what I'm saying? I think the reason why I'm so passionate about this here is because it actually goes beyond the church. But like my dissertation, when I wrote about what I call community-based pedagogical spaces, fancy term for spaces like barbershops and churches and athletic spaces and neighborhoods, I was really making the argument, and I believe it even more so now, that if we're going to really educate our young people, it's going to require more than just a classroom teacher. And so what happens is we just rely on, we think that it's only the teacher that's going to help our young people to be able to, thrive in schools. But, when you think about the influence of Steph Curry and other basketball players and other football players and other athletes and female athletes and the like, our young people listen to them more than they listen to traditional teachers, right? So for me, I believe part of this is also a shift in who we believe has pedagogical power. And I'm going to even go further, like pastoral power, right? Pastoral influence, right? Wait. Pedagogical. Teaching power. All right. Right. So for me, as a classroom teacher, I was an English teacher, you know what I'm saying? I was a pretty decent one, and I could make my lesson plan and, come out with, the Capulets versus the Montagues, to be or not to be, that is a question. I try to make the connections to Tupac and Biggie, and I was trying to make it as cool as I could. But if Steph says the sky is green, Sid, kids are listening. They'll at least look and say, I wonder if that's the case today. You know what I mean? Like you can do all you want to do with our lessons in schools, but there's a trust that community-based pedagogical leaders, educators, pedagogues have that frankly sometimes the community doesn't have with pastoral leadership and with like our church structure, our traditional structures, right? Like what does it look like to lean into the pedagogy of the barber and others, right? It's so I believe part of it again is the sort of top-down, sort of hierarchical approaches that we've had in the past, where the power has been more so at the top of this pyramid, but then the folks at the bottom have felt like they weren't really, they were sort of seen as not really having as much of an influence. And I think again, similarly, if we rethink our framework, then yes, it's about the holistic development of young people. I agree with Saba. And it's also about really, I think, loosening and reimagining who's really got the hearts of our kids and who they're listening to. And I believe that also includes athletes.
Yeah. So ultimately, right? Because I'm trying to think about, some practical things that people can do that are on the line.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things? So we talked about kind of parents. What would you say to young people that may be staying up late this Saturday night, and they're because of the topic is something that they're really kind of tuned into? What would you encourage for them?
A young person that's watching this?
That's watching this right now.
Yeah. Man, I would say, listen, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And everything about you is by design. Like God didn't just give you the gifts that he's given you, for you to sit on them, And so, I would encourage our young people to innovate, to create what doesn't exist. And where there isn't systems and structures, I think it's important for them to build them, right? And to create them and be in community. And I think it's important for us to give our young people permission to dream, you know what I mean? And to not feel shame or to feel like, and again, I get it, right? We have to be thoughtful about the spaces that our children are in. I get it. But I think we should also stop assuming that, like, just because the space says, whatever, our schools or whatever, that these spaces are safe too, right? It's I think we do ourselves a disservice when we do that, and we're very insular. But I think it's important that we can help our young people to know that they have the capacity to influence the world. And so if there's a young person watching, listen, seek daddy. Like what is it that he created you to do and to be and to imagine, and to dream big. Like listen, man, I've always been a dreamer, Sid, that. And I just don't feel like there's enough people in our circle. And I'm talking about like, we talk about being the head, not the tail, but I don't think it's enough of us that have really done it on a level that's like world class. Like I felt some kind of way when I looked at the Obama administration staff, and I'm like, my cohort of Oakwood folks, like I didn't really see many of us in that space, and the folks that were on his staff had the same degrees as me. But it's like, it's the difference between. I did my master's. I went to a particular institution, but I didn't know there was a difference between going there and Northwestern. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know about the internships at the. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like I just think that there's a need for like the reimagining of excellence and excellence beyond our bubble. And so young people who are watching, listen, God has created you to do great things. You know what I'm saying? Great things, and that includes going beyond the spaces that that we typically find our affirmation, our churches. And there's important spaces, those are platforms that he develops us. But I pray that we'll use our gifts to touch the world, a world that's hurting, a world that needs to know that there is hope, there is Christ, and there is balance, and there is rest. Like the Sabbath is a gift. I won't go into detail, but like even as in my position, I feel like I was a D1 athlete the way I was recruited. And one of the things I said was like, listen, I will, the way that I approach my time on the weekend is going to be different. I observe the Sabbath, and I will do more in 6 days than others probably can do in 7. I believe God did that for me in my doctoral journey. He does it in other ways. And so I think, and the response was, that's beautiful. We need more of that. You know what I mean? So it's not like it has to be like this sort of either or, right? I think there's space for us to be able to live out our faith beautifully and to be able to incorporate the practices that we've probably at times only kept in particular bubbles. And I believe that it's time that we actually shake up those gifts and shake up those spaces that have been untouched by people who know what we know, but haven't been able to apply it to the worlds that need it most right now.
So as you say that, what was going through my mind is, if you could sit down with the Leslie Pollards of the Adventist world, if you can sit down with, because these are people that because of the stature that you have and the spaces that you have, these guys may lend their ear to you. If they were to say, okay, we hear you, we need to do better with facilitating and supporting our young people around sports. But how do we start? Right. So I'm talking about leaders from high school, right, to university level. What would you say would be, some first steps for them to really be thinking about and doing?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I think that as I started this segment tonight, said I think that we need to start with apologizing and saying, like, I feel like as a denomination, we just need to say to generations, and it's not just to the current kids really, but it's actually to their parents and their grandparents, some of them who are even frustrated and confused. Oh, it's like, oh, we can't play sports now. Well, what happened 25 years ago when you told us that we couldn't? You know what I mean? So there's pain. There are people who have turned us off because we've bad theology, and now we've sort of had some reflections that we've moved in slightly different directions at times. And of course, you got folks who are going to say, well, oh, you're just compromising the standards, right? And so that's why it's changed, right? And no, I'm not sure that's really the case, right? But I think that we need to start with humility and saying, listen, I'm sorry, like, I mean, see, what would it look like if just like across our generations, like across all the regional conferences and the like, and we just had like I think we need an evangelistic series that's low, not the traditional evangelistic, but like grounded in sport. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just like I mean, I have friends and colleagues. Some play professionally, some not. As far as church connections. But like, what would it look like to just sort of like allow God to heal that space and to celebrate the excellence of people? Listen to this, who thrive in sport despite us, in spite of us, right?
Right.
I think it's problematic when after we've mistreated people or we didn't really affirm it, and then we bring them back after the fact and we want them to sort of perform or to do something for us, right? And when we weren't really during the journey. So I think we have to say, I'm sorry. And then I think the other part is, what does it look like to re-engineer or to imagine what like the creation of a pipeline, almost like a curriculum and a process for excellence. So, I mean, if I was in a position of where I was actively working on this here, I would love to. My question to Magic Johnson would be, hey, Magic, like, what could the church have done differently to better support you in your journey as an athlete, but as a person? What like before any type of ask of like money, like I think we need to learn from and revisit, folks who have had affiliations with us and ask what would it have looked like what could we have done differently, right? And then inviting those people to partner with us to create that for the next generation. You know what I mean? So there's a humility, I'm going to my brother, biblical model, I'm saying I'm sorry, right? I'm acknowledging the harm. And I'm saying we want to do better. We should have done better. We praise God that you were still able to use your gift in spite of us. We want to still walk with you now in your spiritual journey, of course. But could you help us to know how to reach the next generation, perhaps, and to fill gaps that we didn't even know exist because we were never really even humble enough back then to even know how the spaces work? Like, I think we have to, like, this is a space that we don't really know much about as Adventists. The athletic, like space like that's not a space that we've really been in. We don't know a lot about it. We don't know a lot about the Power 5 space beyond like watching March Madness or watching the games and stuff. But the inner workings and the positions. I had a chance. I was invited by Dr. Andrew Young to speak to Oakwood, students for their chapel around sport and the like. And one of these I was saying was, hey, listen, if you're interested in internships or finding jobs in athletics, like reach out. I'm happy to share anything I can. So I think there's a there's a larger sort of learning process and a humility process. There's a need for us to learn from those individuals so we can create the structures and pathways. But we also need to make sure that our current young people can participate in sports in healthy ways, right? And that includes not just playing the game, but also being in leadership positions so that they can learn and share with us ways that our institutions can perhaps using our frameworks to be able to create something that is not just excellent, it's evangelistic, it's relevant, it's culturally sensitive. You know, I mean, there are a lot of Christian schools out there. I mean, and some, I know different approaches, but like there are schools that they've created their own lanes and models. And I think that we haven't had taken the time to really think about what that could look like for us. So yeah, I would love to see Oakwood, you know what I'm saying, in a, you know, really being intent and just think about the sports that you can start with particular sports, right? Like, you know, we know there's some sports we may not engage in, but you know, there's sports where it doesn't take, you know, you don't need 50 people. You just need 12 on a basketball team. You know what I mean? Right. So like, I mean, we can think about what that can look like. And so I think we need to imagine and we need to create.
So look at the question that just came up in the chat.
Yeah. How do we compete in sports at a high level without compromising biblical principles? I mean, I'll be interested in like which biblical principles in particular. You know what I mean?
I had a conversation with this gentleman and offline prior to coming on here, and I think at the core of it is the Sabbath, right? So how do we deal with this Sabbath thing, and maybe even speak to your own I know you said that you told them that you can get more done in the 6 other days or whatever, but is there times where you just say, listen, a part of my ministry is to be there Absolutely. there on a big game?
No, not just on the big game. See it? I'm with them as a chaplain, right? As a minister, as a person, and as a person who's loving on people. Like this is where they are in the worship space. I'm not there for, you know, I'm not there for the game. Like I'm there to love on people, right? So I think again, like what compromise looks like, I think is based on like the people's convictions, right? So I think some of that is not like this sort of, you know, cookie cutter, like this is what compromise looks like. I think that you have to, you know, to thine own self be true and seek God and ask him for clarity and guidance on how he would have you to engage or not. And for somebody, it may be compromise, but for others, based on your calling, based on your positionality, based on the gifts that he's given you and the influence and spaces that you're in, you know, you have to go into these spaces to reach folk, right? But I would also say, I want to say this clearly. I think, again, that if we were truly excellent, people will change the systems and structures and times for us. If LeBron became if LeBron became a 7-day,
right?
I mean, you don't think that there'll probably be maybe less games on Friday nights and Saturdays? And you don't think that just all of a sudden the schedule may change a little bit? You know what I mean? Right? So like, similarly, like that's why I want to affirm the young people, you know, from the Oakwood Academy team. You know, somebody was saying to me earlier, it was like, well, I thought that we had sort of put in the work to change the systems. Like, you know, we've worked hard. These young people they're going further than anybody else. The sad part is that the resistance that they're actually getting right now would suggest that there's still a lot more to be done as relates to the systematic change. In other words, they're taking battle scars and wounds that their father and grandparents and grandmothers and others previously, you know, didn't experience because we didn't engage in the space. So I think, you know, just even them having the opportunity to compete at a high level, and then, you know, facing resistance. Okay, cool. Maybe that's the seeding that the other brother who asked the question was referring to, but that's a seeding that can be transcended. And I think it gets transcended as people recognize the value of our presence in these spaces. I think that in the past we thought, that the world would notice if he wasn't there. It's like the world's been going on without us. They didn't notice that. I mean, thousands and thousands of people who know very little about us. And I just think, you know, this is an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves to a world that needs to know that rest is a part of the construct that God gave us from the beginning. But I also think we need to be willing to be excellent. And I think that as we're excellent, we won't have to compromise because we will add value to the structure, not just in our playing, but also in how we approach the rest and how we build relationships with people. Not coming in and just saying, well, we're just, we have, these traditions, but it's like just meeting people and building relationships goes a long way. A lot of times these schedules are created by people, right? And so it's about relationships. And if you're not in proximity to people to build them, then it's very difficult to expect systems and structures to change for you because the systems and structures are built for the majority, which we've never really broached and been in a relationship with.
So we got about 4 more minutes before we close out. But I think this was a really healthy conversation. I still see comments going on and discussion.
What the people saying? See what the people are saying. What the people talk. What they're saying to you.
They got a lot. They got. It's almost a full.
They're having a conversation. That's good. I mean, that's what this is about, right? That's what this is about. And I hope and pray that it could be healthy. Like I think there is room for perspectives. See, one of the things that blew my mind in seminary was the metaphor of the ballpark. There are folks in left field and right field and folks in the stands. I remember a professor saying, as long as we're in the ballpark, that blew my mind because in my little world, I thought that the way that the pastor at my church in Bermuda who said this is how it is, like that was how the whole denomination did it. But then you live a little bit, you travel a little bit, and you realize, while we weren't going swimming on Sabbath, the folks over there in the Midwest and other places, they're good hiking and canoeing and this and that's. Like, are we part of the same structure? Right? And so that's why I think we need to imagine and say, Daddy, I know you love us. I know you like us. And you create us with some gifts and talents and ways that we engage the world. What does that look like to pursue you through and with the gifts that you've given us? And I believe we may see some things that we've never seen before, not because they weren't always there, but because, man, these structures and oppressive sort of mindsets and our desire to sort of stay in tow. And it's a lot that's been passed on to us that's maybe hindered our capacity to really know God in areas that he wants to reveal himself to us.
Yeah. So there's 2 things I want to say. So one, I'm thankful for Bill Smith being with us. He's one of my colleagues here at the University of Idaho. So
shout out to Idaho. Awesome.
Up with us. Yeah,
sir.
They're staying up with us. But there's been some critique over here on your example of LeBron James because he's a once in a lifetime player. But I thought we had Magic. I'm confused. I'm confused.
Yeah.
Like it's not like we couldn't produce one. So
yeah, I see, brother. Somebody else is saying like LeBron doesn't come around every day. Again, that's a deficit-based framework. I'm using the example of one person, but my point is that we tend to go where we were celebrated, right? I mean, like music, we thrive in music at times in our denomination in part because, right, that's the area that's celebrated. See it, right? You know what I mean? Like it's Oakwood's, like for example, Oakwood, like this area that's celebrated. And so we can produce people who are excellent in sport at the level of LeBron. And I'm just using an example. Over time, as we create a space that says that you can work, like this is a legitimate space of worship and the use of your gifts. It's a legitimate ministry space. So I hope that the individuals won't get caught up in like the particular press. Yeah, LeBron is a once in a lifetime talent, but don't we believe they were the head, not the tail? So can we have the next one? Could God give us our own Samson? You know what I'm saying? We had can we have a Samson of sport? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think also. Just another perspective is that one of the challenges that we have within our system is that we have ministers that make the decisions on most administrative things that happen within our institution. Therefore, a particular perspective may be limited because they've not experienced that. So we may choose leaders that have not engaged in sport, or we may, when it comes to our football team, whether it's in Oakwood's, in the case of Oakwood, it would be our choir, right? We choose leaders that are not necessarily as familiar with that particular area, but because they're, so I think that's something that kind of informs and kind of may to some extent limit some of the opportunities as it relates to decision making for our young people. But I would dare not close out this discussion without having prayer. It looks like the numbers are jumping up as we're about to close out. But this will please go to Sydney Freeman Jr. My YouTube page. It will be saved on my YouTube page if you weren't able to be here early on. But I want to just say thank you so much, Dr. Ty, for taking time and just sharing your thoughts related to sport and the 21st century Black Adventism. I think we got to not only write the paper on this, we got to get the book done. We got to get the book done that will inform this work. And so somebody says shout out to West Indies cricketers. Let's just put that up there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yep, cricket, lovely cricket. Bill Smith. I like Bill Smith from the beginning. Shout out to Bill Smith in Idaho. No, I appreciate it, Sia, Dr. Sia, man. I'm grateful for just the opportunity for us to have the conversation. I just hope that, as you reflect, it's not it's not meant to be, a testy, topic. I think we just, ask Daddy, but also, it's okay if maybe somebody has a slightly different approach from how you may think that God is leading you, and that may be your lane. But others may have a different approach. Man, I'll close with this. Dr. Seed, I'm reminded, it was interesting. I remember, actually when Mr. Roddy passed away, I believe he passed away on December 31st, 2020, I believe. And, for me, it's interesting because I started my position here on January 1st, 2021. Like, I felt like for me, like, it was just like, I say that why I felt a particular type of way about it is, when I was at Oakwood, Mr. Roddy obviously was there, and he was a person that like we had the opportunity to create. Like I shout out to Damian Chandler and all the folks who played on the soccer football, because soccer team, but the world calls it football, Dr. Freeman. But all the folks that played soccer, the one where you actually use your feet. You know what I mean? We had the real football. The real football. Yeah, we had a robust intramurals league, right? Like, it was a team from Canada, from Roots. They called themselves Roots, and team from Jamaica. The reggae boy. I don't remember what they called themselves, but the Jamaican team, and a U.S. team, a team from Trinidad, but we ended up actually creating, I believe, the first Oakwood soccer team, football team that played at another school. And like, as students, we literally created the tournament ourselves. And we played against UAH, Alabama A&M, and what's the community college there in Huntsville, in Calhoun, I believe. Yeah. And we won the tournament. And Damian Chandler debates this. I don't know why he doesn't remember that we won the tournament. So, David, man, you see this? Don't tell the people we didn't win. We won the tournament. I remember it. We got but we created the tournament. See it? Like, I remember being in the back, putting the numbers on the jerseys, right? And so it's crazy because I really do believe that, Daddy, though I did not get a chance to pursue it in my own athletic journey, and at some point I tell the full story of even that and my desire to play professionally, but it just didn't happen. Well, my teammates did, and I'm trying to keep the Sabbath, and I'm saying, God, like, why are you letting them thrive and not me? And I believe that God was just stretching me for such a time as this. And so when Mr. Roddy passed, and then I was starting in this administrative role, to me, it felt just interesting timing, that, there have been individuals, I think about the Javon Timeses and others, who have battled, Tony Olivers and others over the years who have, were coaching, and different folks, who I remember from my time who have, been on this journey. Wayne Bachner is coaching, right? These are folks, Andrew Young, and just folk, who have invested. And I need to make sure we remember some of our women leaders and coaches as well. And so, somebody else could say, "Oh, here we go." I knew somebody else could put that out there. Oh, they played D1 schools, late 60s and 70s. Love it. Did they play soccer? Tara Robinson, let us know. Did they play basketball? I'm talking about soccer. I know they might play other sports, but I don't know. I have some family members that may have said that they played back in the day. I don't know, but I think we may have been the first soccer team. I'm not sure. Soccer. He said soccer. Okay. I need some receipts.
He said
I need some
yes.
receipts. He said yes.
Said yes.
All right. Well, I need some receipts. I need some Polaroids. I need some receipts. I need some proof. Maybe with the second team then. All right. But
somebody's gonna have to go to the archives and dig that out.
100%. Yeah. But I mean, so I need to, anyway, but for us, we created a tournament, right? And I so for me, just being a creator, and being willing to say, okay, it doesn't exist, but how can we make it happen? It hasn't been done, but how can it be, right? Man, I just pray that we will lead into that in this season. This is the time. Like, now is the time. And we have a generation of young people who have everything at their hands. And I believe we need to be better stewards of their gifts. So yeah, shout out to all the folks who are seeking to live for Christ in the ways that he has gifted you, bless you. And I pray that you're encouraged by this conversation.
Yeah, as we're still closing out here, I do want to honor individuals like Mr. Al Conwell and others who served in the athletic department with distinction over the years, and have they've had to fight. They've had to fight with limited resources. You lifted up the name of Mr. Roddy and others, but the struggle continues. The work still goes on, both within our system and those that are attending institutions that are not Seventh-day Adventists. But we want to still honor those who have vision. Had vision and still have vision more for institutions like Pine Forge and Oakwood and Oakwood Academy.
And Bermuda Institute. You gotta put Bermuda Institute in there too, Dr. Freeman.
Excuse me.
I don't like this. I don't need this U.S. bias. But yeah, no, for sure. 100%. I think of Dr. Henry, who helped with intramurals, and also I want to shout out, man, Ray Gray, brother. I think it's in New York. His daughter is actually, her name is Raven Gray, and she is an amazing volleyball player, right? And he's been nurturing volleyball players, and I know she's a D1 athlete, I believe, at Winston-Salem State University. So like, there are parents who have been doing it. So shout out to the parents who've been doing it, to the other chaplains in the space. I see our brother Al Johnson, who's on. Just people who are ministering in non-traditional spaces. So I praise God for just the dexterity and creativity for folks who have gone ahead, and our colleagues in ministry and in life and in professionalism who are seeking to touch the world and just live relevant Christian lives. So, and shout out to Mr. Robertson, who said that Oakwood played. I saw the comment that was up, said we played and we used to run things in Alabama in soccer, apparently. So again, I need some Polaroids, Mr. Robertson. I need some receipts. Send them my way. But yeah, we tip our hat, to those who have gone before and helped to pave the way. So
yeah, so I'm glad that this is going to be archived. This is going to be archived online, so we can refer back to it. I think there was a lot of gems that were shared, and I'm going to keep whispering in your ear or whatever, that we gotta get this theology of Black Adventist sport out at some point, man. We got to get that done, because as you can see, there is a need for it. Before we close out, would you mind praying for us?
Yeah, let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time. Thank you for the conversation. We thank you for just the opportunity to even imagine, Lord. You created us, and you also gave us the capacity to create. And we know that any good thing that comes from us comes from you. So we give you praise and we give you thanks, even for the platform, just to dialogue, to, not just, post and feel frustrated or stuck. But our prayer is that this conversation will help people to consider maybe things that we haven't considered before. So we're not claiming to even say what the answer should be. In fact, we encourage, God, we're asking that through your Spirit, that individuals will seek you and ask you for clarity and open the word and fall on our faces and say, God, you've gifted us with these children. You've gifted us with influence over these institutions. How should we best serve you in this season? And so I'm asking, God, that you'll do that for us. Thank you for Dr. Freeman and his willingness to just, connect and partner, and you're not just in sort of the informal conversations that we have personally, but also to begin to open up these conversations to broader communities of individuals who I believe also, want to not just live to their potential, but live free. And so, God, I'm asking that you will liberate us, God, that you will heal us. I pray that for someone who's watching, who needs encouragement beyond sport, Lord, they just need your peace. They need your joy. I ask that you will be their strength. I ask that you will give them what they need during these Sabbath hours. Give us rest. And Lord, I pray that you continue to lead us and guide us in our professional environments and the space that you've called us. I just ask that you would also, God, use this conversation as a tool of healing and reflection, and not one that's meant that is divisive or petty, but that you will allow us to be willing to be led by you and to be intentional, God, about being good stewards of all that you have for us and have given us. We thank you, we praise you, and we love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Blessings to each of you, and looking forward to having more conversations like this. God bless.
Take care.